So what I did was I copied the map file from the source port to the vanilla install map folder. And then I opened vanilla dhewm3 and ran dmap through that, and it compiled perfectly. Well, the first time, one of the maps I had tried to make, it said it leaked. And then I checked it again. When I was making one of the brushes, I guess I didn't pull it far enough, so there was a gap there. And I was like, all right, fair enough. But then it worked. Um, and this was like the fucking fifth or sixth map I had tried to make, trying to figure this out. So then I was like, all right, well, let me go try the original map I was fucking with, which, when I first started making it, um, I had made it, uh, with the intention of using it to fuck with the nurbs, the patches, the curves or whatever, till I was having all these fucking problems. And now, uh, that I'd gotten that other one to work, I decided to try that original one. I copied it over. You know, I ran dmap through vanilla dhewm3. It worked perfectly. And then I copy it back to the source port, and it plays perfectly. And I'm like, well, what the fuck then? Well, I think it's either that, it's the fact that it just is going to do that if it's not on C drive like it wants it to be. Or another thing I think could be the issue. There's sort of two separate issues it could be. They're sort of like corollaries of the same issue or whatever. I think the other issue possibly, or it could be a combination of both. I don't know. But I think the other main issue that it could be, other than being not on C drive, was that maybe the path is just too long, because it is a pretty long path, and I have a habit of putting stuff in very specific directories, mostly for searchability. Like the search programs I use can search really easily, search directory names. If you uh you know don't fuck up typing it or whatever, right? But um I have a habit of putting stuff into very specific folders. I really don't like, you know, relying on metadata or whatever. But my, dhewm source port directory is a pretty long fucking directory, name, path, whatever. So it could be that it's like just not able to handle the full path name. Sort of like dhewm3 in the first place doesn't handle, you know, extension lists over a certain amount, and so that's why you have to do that stupid, thing in control panel or whatever to limit the number of OpenGL extensions it tries to give the game. So otherwise it'll crash, right? Because John Carmack is such a fucking genius that he thought to put some stupid hard coded limit to fuck the game over like that, right? I think it could have been that. Maybe the path itself is overall just too long. I've ran into that with like Worldcraft before, not so much with Hammer. Um, but also I think part of the problem could be that I have hyphens in the dhewm3 source port directory name somewhere in that path, which is weird because I don't ever really do that. Like I'm so used to dealing with programs that interface with Linux, or like I run command lines through Cygwin, that I'm used to how Linux will handle directories and like names and shit like that. Um, to the point to where it's like if I was going to make a folder for like Darkforge, for example, or Hellforge that I installed. So it's release 1.0.0. Well, the folder I will put it in is one called 1P0P0, like letter P, but to indicate point, specifically to keep, like I do everything to keep directories and file names to pretty much just letters and numbers, no spaces or any other fancy characters for this reason. So I'm kind of wondering why I would have put that there. But it could be something related to that, even though like I had tried like putting quotes around the file path and all this other bullshit. But I think I pretty much solved the problem. Um, it's either it just wasn't going to work unless it was on C drive like I wanted, or it's, my file path is too long and it's got characters the game doesn't like dealing with in it. Because I check to make sure that dhewm3 actually does come with dmap, right? So like if you run just dmap with no parameters, it'll just show you the list of options and like what the syntax is. So it is there. But then that makes me think, okay, well maybe dhewm3 itself, maybe that's the problem. Maybe C drive with vanilla working automatically was just happenstance off of the fact that the directory name is shorter. So I might try that at a point. I might move the source port into a directory, like put it next to the vanilla install with a shorter file path, and then see if it starts working again. But yeah, either way, I've done this a couple times now, so I'm going to do it with this one. I got too into the video and I went over 15 minutes, but sort of like I did with the boiling point video where it was like three, it was like part 1, part 2, part 3. I'll just take this one and cut it into 2 parts, I guess, because then it'd be about 10 minutes a piece, something like that, if I'm done talking with it soon. But yeah, for the time being, my solution is just, whatever I did with Radiant, just copy the map file to Vanilla Doom, compile it there, copy the files back to the source port, and then just play it there for the time being like I want to. I don't want to fuck too much with my vanilla install for right now, but whatever. That was just, it's kind of just bullshit. Like you would think this shit would be so much easier than it is, and it's like if I point you to the directories I want this shit in, it should just work. I mean, you should do this for me, right? But then at the same time, it's like if the file path, if there's any sort of shit that's going to fuck with that, you think that would be put somewhere on the fucking editor. Oh, the path can only be this long, or it can only be on C drive, or as vanilla is expected, even if you pointed somewhere else, or I don't know. Whatever. At least I figured it out, or as far as I can tell. But once I figured out what I did now to finally get the fucking piece of shit to compile, I've tested 2 of the maps that I made, and they're working fine now as far as I can see. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably work with netradiant, partly for the nostalgia, but also partly for um, the fact that I'm gonna, now that I can get the maps to actually compile, I'm gonna fuck with what I intended to, which was fucking with the nurbs and the curved surface stuff and pipes and all that, and maybe even make my own map comparing the way pipes look and like curves look to different ways you can alter them to make them at least look like proper circles or cylinders or whatever. But either way, um, the netradiant stuff, I haven't used it in forever. It'll probably come back to me pretty fast. They all work mostly the same, but they have a few little differences. But I definitely did that the most, like fucking with like the pipes and curve, like nurbs, patches, whatever shit the most with netradiant back in the day. So that would be a nice little bit of nostalgia, distraction, escapism, whatever. And maybe at some point I'll deal with trying to move the source port installation around or some bullshit like that. But this is how most of the shit is. It's kind of the part of the appeal for Half-Life 2 that I have mentioned before, like how the rebels, they have these just totally just improvised structures and all this other shit. Just slapped it together with whatever they had in the moment. That's what happens a lot with not just level design but game design. So I was thinking about that. Like, there's a lot of stuff like that horror themed map I was making for episode 2. I have the triggers set up, the spooky stuff, triggers set up in a certain way so that you experience them in a certain order. But I was thinking about that while I was playing Doom 3. There's certain parts in the game where it feels like the triggers are broken. Like there should be stuff that spawns or this or that doesn't. Or you can even say that in the console sometimes, and it made me think about that. um, you know, having shit set up the way that I have it, it wouldn't take that much changing something with it to totally break everything without realizing it, right? Scripted sequences, even if they're not that complex, or they're like programming. It's like when they don't work, you have no clue why, and then when they do work, you have no clue why, right? And it's all like propositional calculus at the end of the day, but it's like that's the problem, is that it does what you told it. It's just you fuck up and forgot what you told it to do. And shit ends up just hacked together like that. Oh, I'm copying from a source port to vanilla just to compile it with dmap. And it's like, all right, yeah, maybe I could do it more efficiently, but it's the way that's working. And I just would rather not fuck with whatever's working. And then also, you get used to doing it that way. Um, Ross, from Cursed Farms, he mentioned that in this video he had years ago about graphical user interfaces and operating systems. It's like the most efficient thing really is more what you're used to. But yeah, you can see how you have these little problems here or there, and it's just something bullshit like that is just a band-aid solution that just fucking works, but then it becomes solidified, right? There's a lot of software design and even level design based shit that works like that. Different oddities and, levels, and you see analysis videos of like video game levels, and there's secret areas or weird shit that doesn't make sense or whatever. That's what ends up happening a lot of times. They just improvise, hack something together just to fucking make it work, or at least stop not compiling, right? And I don't know. Yeah, I always thought shit like that was pretty interesting. But at least I got the piece of shit working for right now. So, yeah. I don't know. I'm just going to end the video there. All right. And one last thing. That is something that sort of annoys me with Doom 3, and I guess makes the certain issues I had with the different Radiant versions make sense in a way. Every other id engine, Quake 1 to 3, Doom 3, or like whatever. Well, maybe it's not with Doom 3. But at least with every other id software related engine that I've worked with, almost every fucking first person shooter out there, they have separate compiler tools that you like point to in the config of the level editor, and it runs those, but they're a separate thing. Why does Doom 3 make it part of the game itself? That's kind of retarded, but then at the same time, it makes me, like, now it makes sense why, the default way to run it is by launching the game either and typing editor in the console or putting it in the shortcut. And actually, I don't even know if the editor is a separate executable in Doom 3 by default or whatever. That was something else I had found, was some download, or no, they don't even have a release of it. It's just the source code. I'm not fucking compiling anything. I'm not dealing with that bullshit. Not compiling code anyway. But it was like a separate version of dmap for Doom 3, so you could compile the map without running the game. That's like the only id Software game or engine branch that does that. It's like every other game I've ever fucked with has separate programs that are the compiler tools. And yeah, that's kind of annoying. Yeah, whatever. At least I got it figured out for the time being. So, I get to have a little bit of nostalgic level design, mapping to, enjoy or whatever. So, yeah, I'm just going to end the video here.